The fluorescent lights of Lincoln Elementary's hallway flickered as Marcus Chen straightened his daughter's backpack on his shoulder, his calloused hands trembling slightly. He'd left the construction site early, dust still clinging to his work boots, because missing Emma's parent-teacher conference wasn't an option. Not when he was all she had. Not when every decision, every sacrifice, every moment mattered twice as much in their world of two. He checked his watch, 7:47 p.m., and quickened his pace toward room 204, unaware that in exactly 3 minutes, his carefully rebuilt life would collide with the past he'd spent 12 years trying to forget. Marcus had been 17 when he first kissed Sarah Mitchell under the bleachers after a football game, her laughter like wind chimes in the autumn air. They'd made promises the way only teenagers can, absolute, eternal, impossible. Then life happened. His father's accident, medical bills that swallowed dreams whole, and Sarah's acceptance to Princeton with a full scholarship. He'd told her to go, insisted actually, even as his heart splintered into pieces he wasn't sure would ever fit back together. She'd cried. He'd pretended not to. And then she was gone, taking with her every possibility of who they might have become together. Now, standing outside room 204, Marcus wiped his palms on his jeans and pushed open the door. The classroom smelled of crayons and possibility, walls covered with 8-year-old artwork depicting families in stick-figure glory. His eyes found Emma's drawing immediately, just 2 figures, one tall and one small, holding hands under a sun with uneven rays. His chest tightened. "Mr. Chen." A voice from behind the desk made him turn, and the world tilted on its axis. Sarah Mitchell, no, the nameplate read Sarah Mitchell Thornton now, stood before him, but not quite the Sarah he remembered. This woman wore a tailored navy suit that whispered of boardrooms and power lunches, her hair swept up in a sophisticated twist. But those eyes, those impossibly warm brown eyes, were unchanged. Recognition flashed across her face like lightning, followed by something that looked like pain. Marcus. His name fell from her lips like a prayer or a confession, he couldn't tell which. The silence stretched between them, filled with 12 years of unasked questions and unsaid words. Marcus's mind raced. She was Emma's teacher. How was that possible? Sarah Mitchell had been destined for corner offices in Fortune 500 companies, not elementary school classrooms in their hometown. I didn't know you were back, Marcus managed, his voice rougher than intended. I thought you'd be in New York or San Francisco, running something important. A flicker of something, regret. Sadness, crossed Sarah's face. I mean, she paused, collecting herself with visible effort. Please, sit down. We should talk about Emma. They settled into chairs designed for children, knees awkwardly high, and for a moment, the absurdity of it broke the tension. Sarah smiled, and Marcus felt 17 again. Emma is extraordinary, Sarah began, pulling out a folder thick with papers. Her creativity, her empathy, the way she sees the world, Marcus, she's special. She slid a story across the desk, written in Emma's careful handwriting. She wrote this last week. It's about a girl who collects people's sadness in jars and turns them into fireflies. Marcus read, his throat tightening with each line. His daughter had inherited his mother's gift for words, a grandmother she'd never meet. She never showed me this. She said she didn't want to make you sad. She mentioned you work 2 jobs and that you're always tired. Sarah's voice softened. She also said you're the bravest person she knows. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd been so focused on providing, on being enough, that he hadn't considered how Emma might be protecting him the same way he protected her. I'm trying to be what she needs. You already are, Sarah said with unexpected intensity. Then, as if the words had broken through a dam, she continued. Marcus, I need to explain something. I'm not just Emma's teacher. This is temporary. I'm the CEO of Mitchell Education Group. We develop curriculum and learning tools. I've been running from a life I built but never actually wanted. Marcus stared at her, processing. You're a CEO volunteering as a second-grade teacher. Not volunteering. Remembering. Sarah's eyes glistened. 6 months ago, I was in a car accident. Nothing serious, but enough to make me reevaluate everything. I'd built this empire, married a man my parents approved of, divorced him 2 years later when I realized I was trying to become someone I wasn't. I had everything except a reason to wake up excited about the day ahead. So I took a sabbatical and came home. I wanted to remember why I fell in love with education in the first place, the kids, the moments, the magic. And did you remember? Marcus asked quietly. Every single day. Sarah reached across the desk, stopping just short of touching his hand. But I also remembered other things. Like how you used to read to kids at the library every Saturday. How you'd tutor anyone who asked, even when you had your own homework. How you saw potential in everyone, including a girl who was too afraid to believe she could be more than what this town expected. Marcus felt his carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. You left. You were supposed to leave. That was always the plan. You pushed me away, Marcus. You made that choice for both of us. Because you deserved more than being trapped here with. Marcus stopped, aware his voice had risen. He glanced at the door, grateful it was closed. My dad needed round-the-clock care. Mom was gone. What was I supposed to do? Ask you to give up Princeton, your future, your dreams for medical debt and my failure. It wouldn't have been failure, Sarah said fiercely. It would have been us. But you never gave me the choice. You just disappeared. Changed your number. Wouldn't answer my emails. I came home that Christmas and you'd moved away. Your neighbor said you'd gone to Ohio. Cleveland. Worked construction, saved money, tried to build something. Marcus ran his hand through his hair. Met Emma's mom at a community center. She was kind, and I was lonely, and for a while, that seemed like enough. Then Emma came, and Rachel realized motherhood wasn't what she wanted. She left before Emma turned 1. So yeah, I came back here, to the only place that ever felt like home, and I've been trying to be enough ever since. The classroom clock ticked loudly in the silence. Outside, they could hear other parents leaving, doors closing, the building settling into nighttime quiet. You want to know the truth? Sarah's voice broke slightly. I've spent 12 years building companies and making money and sitting in meetings where everyone agrees with me because I signed their paychecks. I've dated men who looked perfect on paper and felt hollow in practice. And every single time I came home for holidays, I'd drive past your old house hoping I'd see you, hoping you'd somehow magically appear and tell me that what we had wasn't just teenage stupidity. It wasn't, Marcus said simply. It was the realest thing I've ever felt. Sarah laughed, but it sounded like crying. We're a mess, aren't we? You sacrificing yourself for everyone else, me running so far from home I forgot what mattered. And here we are, 12 years later, meeting over your daughter's parent-teacher conference. Emma told me her teacher was nice, Marcus said, a small smile playing at his lips. She said you actually listen and that you have sad eyes sometimes. I should have known it was you. Emma's got good instincts. She mentioned her dad works hard and tells bad jokes and makes the best pancakes in the universe. They're just pancakes. She said you put chocolate chips in them to make smiley faces. She deserves to smile, Marcus said, and the weight of those words hung between them. All the smiles he'd worked himself raw to create, all the moments he'd tried to be two parents in one. Sarah stood abruptly, moving to the window overlooking the playground. I'm supposed to go back to New York in 6 weeks. My board is getting restless. There's a merger that needs my attention. My real life, as everyone keeps calling it, is waiting. She turned to face him. But this feels more real than anything I've done in the past decade. These kids, this work, coming home to a rental apartment with nothing but silence and somehow feeling more content than I did in my penthouse with a view of Central Park. And now you're here, and your daughter is brilliant and kind and I see you in her every single day, and I don't know what to do with any of it. Marcus stood too, crossing the small room until only inches separated them. He could smell her perfume, something expensive and subtle that reminded him of the distance between who they'd been and who they'd become. I can't ask you to stay. I couldn't do it 12 years ago, and I can't do it now. You've built something incredible, Sarah. You're a CEO, for God's sake. You affect thousands of lives with your decisions. I'm just a guy who swings a hammer and helps his kid with homework. Just a guy. Sarah's hand finally closed the distance, touching his chest where his heart hammered. You're raising an exceptional human being alone. You work 2 jobs to give her everything she needs. You showed up here after a 10-hour shift because her education matters. Don't you dare diminish what you've built. It's not exactly a corporate empire. No, Sarah agreed. It's better. It's love made tangible. It's sacrifice given freely. It's everything I forgot mattered while I was busy mattering to shareholders. They stood there, two people who'd loved fiercely once and built separate lives from the ruins of that love, now somehow circling back to where it began. Marcus wanted to kiss her. He wanted to run. He wanted to build a time machine and make different choices. He wanted to accept every choice that led to this moment. What if? Sarah started, then stopped. What if I didn't go back? What if I restructured my company, promoted my VP to CEO, and stayed on as chairman? I could consult remotely, travel once a month. I could keep teaching. I could. She took a shaky breath. I could see if the best thing I ever lost could somehow become something new. Marcus cupped her face, his rough hands gentle against her skin. I can't let you sacrifice. Stop, Sarah interrupted. Stop deciding what I deserve or don't deserve. Stop protecting me from my own choices. You did that once, and we lost 12 years. Don't do it again. Her eyes blazed with certainty. I'm not the girl who needed saving anymore, Marcus. I'm a woman who built an empire and discovered it was empty. I'm someone who finally figured out that success isn't measured in revenue or market share, but in moments that matter. In students who bloom. In second chances. She smiled through tears. In terrible dad jokes and chocolate chip pancakes and maybe, if you'll let me, in a family I choose instead of a life I constructed. Emma needs stability, Marcus warned, even as hope bloomed painful and bright in his chest. I can't let her get attached if you're going to leave. Then I won't leave. Sarah said it like a vow. I'll stay. Not for you, not entirely. But for me. For the life I want instead of the life I thought I should want. And maybe, if we're both brave enough, we can figure out what comes next together. Marcus kissed her then, soft and careful, like handling something precious and fragile and impossibly important. It tasted like coming home. Like second chances. Like every rom-com cliché and none of them, because this was real, messy and complicated and perfect in its imperfection. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah laughed, wiping her eyes. Your daughter is going to think this is insane. My daughter, Marcus said, wrote a story about turning sadness into fireflies. I think she'll understand magic when she sees it. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the same classroom for the winter showcase, watching Emma beam as she read her latest story to proud parents. Sarah caught his eye from across the room, no longer just Emma's teacher but something more, his partner, his company parent in training, his second chance at first love. She'd restructured her entire company, bought a house 3 blocks away, and somehow made the impossible look easy. You did this, Sarah whispered later as they walked Emma to the car, the little girl chattering excitedly about hot chocolate and whether fireflies really could exist in winter. We did this, Marcus corrected, taking her hand. You chose to stay. That's everything. And it was. Not because the path forward was clear or easy, but because they'd finally learned that the bravest thing wasn't sacrificing yourself for others' happiness. It was choosing your own happiness and trusting it would ripple outward, turning sadness into light, one firefly at a time.